Hello and welcome to HealthTech Hour on UK Health Radio. My name is Steve Roest, and each week we bring you the latest news, views and interviews with the leaders and entrepreneurs who are driving the health tech revolution in the UK and beyond. I'm a CEO and founder of a health tech company myself, and I'm passionate about the people and companies who are changing the world. Before we talk to our guest today, please follow us on Twitter, Instagram and LinkedIn. That's at HealthTech Hour. And also make sure to follow UK Health Radio, which is at UK Health Radio. So one of the reasons that I wanted to do this show, and one of the reasons why I love doing this show, is to showcase people and companies who are using technology and using the digital world to address health issues that carry a lot of stigma and that are tough to talk about. So last week we spoke to the founder of Pepi, Mridula Paur, and Pepi have created a digital platform to support people through difficult stages in their lives, such as menopause. They've also started a campaign called Black Mums Matter Too to address the huge inequalities in healthcare and health outcomes for Black and minority ethnic mums as opposed to white mums. The week before that, we spoke to Catherine Falkend from Perla Health, who is improving the care pathways for women who suffer from polycystic ovary disease, polycystic ovary syndrome. These issues affect millions of us. And so the more discussion, the better. And I personally think that digital health solutions are revolutionizing the diagnosis, treatment, and resolution of these things, where either people don't want to speak about them or feel awkward about speaking them. Maybe they get shunted around before they get a diagnosis. Maybe they just don't know where to go for advice. And that brings me nicely onto today's guest. So Max Kersting is a serial entrepreneur who for the last few years has been founder and CEO of Regimen, which is revolutionizing the area of men's intimate health, beginning with erectile dysfunction. For men, I think not being able to get an erection is probably up there with the most emotionally difficult health problems that we may have to cope with. And Regimen's app-based program provides sustainable solutions that's not just about popping pills to solve the symptoms. They already have thousands of users worldwide, and Regimen is also part of the same NHS cohort as our company, PocDoc. So when I heard Max talking about Regimen on the program and explaining that 90% of men who have strokes or heart attacks have an erectile dysfunction issue in the years coming up to their heart attack or stroke, which I didn't know about, I just knew I had to get Max on the show and listen and understand a bit more about what Regimen are doing. So Max, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Good to have you. So Max, you're in Berlin, is that right?
I'm in Berlin. I'm looking outside my window and it's gray, but spring is coming.
Good. Well, look, you being in Berlin highlights that we're now a global show with guests all over the world. We've expanded, which is good. So how has Regimen coped during the pandemic? What are you in? You're Berlin and London. So how has the business kind of handled the pandemic?
We even before the pandemic, we've been somehow set up as a company in times of COVID. Okay. We've worked with people from all over the world, actually. Have advisors in Australia, in the US. Okay. And a team, spread out, and we are working from co-working spaces. Okay. And we are getting better and better every week in dealing with not seeing each other in person. But I think that's the issue everybody's dealing with right now. Yeah, it is a deal. Yeah, everyone's having to deal with that issue. I think it's just, there's an element where I'm not quite sure what's going to happen when everyone gets to be back in the same office at the same time. It's been quite a long time. So your background, looking at it, you're a serial entrepreneur. You've worked across a number of different companies, across a number of different areas. So how and why did you, and none of them, unless I'm mistaken, none of them prior to Regimen were anything to do with healthcare. So what made you, when and how did you kind of make the decision or make the leap to move into health tech? So actually, it's a pretty personal story. I'm 33 today, and happy birthday! No, sorry. Today I'm 30. That's the non-native language. I'm making this mistake all the time. I'm getting so many birthday wishes. Okay, you mean you are 33? I'm going to be 34 in 6 months. Okay. Almost 15 years back, 13 years back, when I was 20, I had something that is called veno-occlusive dysfunction. It's a kind of erectile dysfunction that you can basically compare with a bathtub without a plug. My veins didn't hold the blood in my penis when my body tried to create an erection. So it doesn't matter how much blood was flowing in; it was flowing out right away. And I've seen, I think, in total back in the days, 15 urologists, and all they did increasing 15, yeah, 15, increasing the amount of pharmaceutical dosages they put in my body. And it just didn't help. And I'm not alone with that problem. Viagra works too.
So what was the problem that you had specifically? What was it called?
A veno-occlusive dysfunction, or on Reddit, people call it, I don't really know how to pronounce it, venous leak. So I've been going through the entire therapy spectrum for 2 years, and sitting in front of a urologist ultimately who told me, Max, you're never going to have a healthy erection again. Wow. Deal with it or get an implant, you choose.
Wow.
And I know I can't curse on the show, but
yeah, you can't curse.
I said I'm gonna take the fate in my own hands, and went through medical databases on my own. Bought a DVD back in the days with a pelvic floor training program, and then had help from a couple of excellent urologists building a program. And I mean, I guess we know it all in the health tech space that a ton, since the Viagra patent expired, a ton of investment money was flowing into generic Viagra.
Yeah.
And I knew there's a better solution, because what had helped me back in the days was a training lifestyle program, including a whole bunch of stuff that people would feel extremely stigmatized. And I have a lot of fun talking about them. Including vacuum pump training, including pelvic floor training, cardio training. I took supplements. I took pills, pharmaceutical pills, before I went to bed to create more nocturnal blood flow. And slowly but surely, my erection improved. Took a long time. It's back to normal.
So which, you saw 15 urologists. So which number urologist suggested that there might be another option other than an implant, or accepting that you'll never have a healthy erection ever again? When did that kind of idea came in?
I looked through forums and found good doctors, and one of those is one of my co-founders now.
Oh, cool.
And I did I can be a pretty stubborn person, so I did the research. I was studying political sciences, so nothing related, and I was going through medical databases in the night on my own.
And the program that you were on, was it revolutionary at the time, or was this something that other people were doing but just no one was paying much attention?
So I would say there was evidence for like single components. There's evidence for a long time that cardiovascular health helps, and that the Mediterranean diet helps. But I basically identified what could help potentially. There was nothing that like the program I was going through or creating with these doctors. But I think that's also one thing, like you can improve your health in general by taking initiative in many cases. And
empowerment. And so what happened between, you being 20, 21, 22 and suffering with this issue, and then, coming up with the program with your now co-founder to solve the issue? Well, latterly it turned out that it solved the issue. You didn't know that when you started. And then what happened in that intervening period? Because Regimen's 2 years old now, 3 years old. So at what point did you realize that you could draw on your previous experience and create a business that would help other people with the same problem?
So to be honest, my co-founder Wilco and we've been working on a different thing that wasn't the passion of none of our personal. We weren't that interested in it, and I was looking at the funding rounds of Viagra generics company with both of my eyes at that time for, I don't know, like 2 or 3 years, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I kind of got more and more frustrated in a way that that I thought, is that reality that something off patent is now the solution for a problem that many people had? I didn't actually know how many people have an erection problem. It's much more common than people think.
Well, and what are the numbers?
Depends on the study you're looking at, obviously. But for example, the NHS Scotland says 50% over 40. And in general, we believe it's somewhere between 25 and 30% of men. Wow. But you'll find numbers from 3% to 76.5% in clinical studies, and it always kind of depends on how you define an erectile dysfunction. It can be anything from literally nothing works to problems here and there, right? It's very individual.
So is there because you said that you had a very sort of specific medical issue, so does erectile dysfunction, does it cover a very broad range of problems, and how broad are those? Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Yes, of course. I mean, an erectile dysfunction or erection problems cover everything from an organic issue or cardiovascular issue to maybe depression or just insecurity. It can literally be it's a relatively complex system. I think most people know that erections kind of like, you can't force an erection by thinking I want to have an erection, right? It is a process that where different parts in the body are involved, and it's super complex. Also, like the degree of suffering is different, right? Some people who have a healthy erection might suffer a lot because they think it's not enough, and vice versa.
Okay, and how much knowledge and research existed prior to you sort of start, well, I guess when you had your problem back when you were, in your early 20s, and now, how much understanding is there of the actual causes and complexity of having an erection, not having an erection, dysfunction? Is there still a lot of unknown out there? I say this because when we had Catherine on there, a lot of what your story kind of chimes with a lot of what she was saying about PCOS, so polycystic ovary syndrome. She saw 8, 9 doctors before receiving a diagnosis. Not everyone has the same symptoms. Not everyone has the same severity. Not everyone has the same views about their symptoms. And that's why it's quite hard to pin down the right course of treatment for it. Is it sort of similar?
It's a tricky question. I think an erectile dysfunction is mostly self-diagnosed. If you say I have a problem with my erection, most doctors won't question that. They will do that. My co-founder, my medical co-founder Wolf, says doctors have been so happy to have something, which is Viagra, to actually have something that they could give people, because before Viagra there was literally nothing you could do, except experimental stuff. And in the past 10 years, more holistic and not symptom-based, but root-based treatments or interventions have been studied in science. And I think what I've done back in the days was somewhat experimental. It's not anymore. But the problem is coaching people and going through a lifestyle program is not easy. Doctors don't have the time. So it's still the normal treatment pathway is someone comes into a GP or urologist and says, I have an erectile dysfunction, and they get Viagra or Cialis or the generic versions. And even though healthcare guidelines call for a solution that is at least complementary, maybe even first line, that is not a pill. And that's what we try to bring to people. And we're also trying to find a way to educate doctors about it, because doctors oftentimes know but don't have the time. So if doctors are listening, ping me, max@joinregimen.com, We're learning with doctors how to integrate it better in the pathway and in the patient pathway.
So just to go back on that, because there were a few things in there I want to pick up on. So the first one is around Viagra. So is there a place for Viagra? Do you believe there is a place? Because or is it just being misprescribed, or what's your belief around that?
Absolutely, there's a place for Viagra and for all the other drugs. So if you compare it with, let's say, with a depression or even with a broken leg, let's say a broken leg, you have symptomatic treatment, which might be painkillers or even crutches, and you have physiotherapy, right? And both is important. And same thing is same goes for so many different issues. In erections, there's just symptomatic treatment, which is Viagra, and nothing for the underlying issues and for the long-term therapy. And we won't, through a holistic program, doesn't matter as us or anybody else, you won't just fix people. Many people will improve, will maintain their erection, or even Viagra, or nothing, Viagra doesn't work for them anymore. Right. We had a couple of cases where they've been going through our program and all of a sudden Viagra works again and they can have intercourse. Right.
So it's sort of like the body builds up a tolerance or some kind of something akin to that or something?
Or just, it's oftentimes, not every medication works for everyone. Maybe it's also like the re-stimulating the cardiovascular system. I'm not a doctor, so everything I say has to be taken with a grain of salt.
Yeah, of course.
That's I mean, ultimately the patient outcome is what matters, and there is a place for Viagra. It should just not be the solution that you always take for symptom treatment and then increase the dosages, and at some point in time, that's it.
Yeah. So when you as many mission-driven founders do, so, a founder that has a personal epiphany or a personal experience that then sets out to solve that problem, not just for them, but for the world. You moved from a situation where you had a problem to one where you realized that there were millions of people with similar problems and you wanted to provide a solution for them. So at what point did you make that decision to do that? And what went into that? Was it something that was completely natural, or was there some kind of trigger? And you went because I know you mentioned that you saw the funding rounds for the Viagra generics, but was there anything else? Because I think that I find that personally very interesting, where you've suddenly decided to do this incredible thing for millions and millions of people worldwide.
Actually, I think both my co-founder Wilco and I, we've realized we want to do something that we truly believe in, and where we can support people with problems we can relate to. And we were at the point where we had the capacity to do something that we really want to. Like, we had the choice either to continue with something that we like, with any job, any topic, or and I was like, for me, I was literally starting to think about this issue for a year, and the trigger was in that case really like seeing startups selling Viagra as first-line treatment for everyone, as kind of like a lifestyle, maybe even hipster drug.
Is that right? Is that how they were doing it?
I somewhat thought that there are, I mean, I've started to research on my own how many people are affected, and and then we're trying to create a different way to treat men's intimate health issues, starting with erections.
And you mentioned just before that already in medical guidelines, I guess in primary care, that if someone comes presenting an erectile problem, erectile dysfunction, the advice is already to provide at least some comparable non-drug based route. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that in the UK and in Germany, or is that just in one of them?
In many countries, actually. And there are also different guidelines. But in the UK, I think the knowledge is actually better and than the knowledge base than many other countries. Even cardiologists, the QS3 cardiology predictive questionnaire takes erectile dysfunction, or uses erectile dysfunction as an independent predictor for cardiovascular diseases. We believe that the UK is actually advanced in comparison to. Actually, I mean, I don't want to trash talk about Germans, but here, yeah, we are making the experience that erectile dysfunction is more of a stigmatized issue than in the UK and even the US. But ultimately, doctors everywhere struggle to really address it the way patients need it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so is that one of the stigma issues surrounding it? How does that normally sort of express itself with erectile dysfunction, or how have you found that expresses itself within this area?
Yeah, I can talk about it from a personal perspective and from a perspective of working with hundreds of people we've also interviewed and that have we've been part of that journey. So from a personal perspective, I can tell you that for 10 years, I haven't talked to anybody about these issues. It was kind of like in the past, I didn't really want to address it.
Yeah.
And I'm only addressing it right now because I feel like I can help and support people and advance the conversation in our society.
Yeah.
I feel like we've literally worked with and interviewed so many of our clients, and for them, it's important to talk about the issue with someone who is not awkward around it, and I'm not awkward. It's not awkward for me to talk about this topic anymore.
Yeah.
And B, I know that, or we all know also from research, that shame and stigma prevents people from at least seeing a doctor. Like half of there's a study some research in the UK that half of people with an erectile dysfunction never go and see a doctor and would rather break up with their partner. And it takes people about 2 years to go and see a GP and talk about this issue. And I had a conversation last week with a GP who said usually people who present with an erectile dysfunction always lead with a different issue, and then when they somewhat have the hand on the door already, they say, and by the way, I have another issue. Time's over, and what happens is these people get a prescription. So
right. Okay.
And shame is really preventing people to get the treatment and care they need.
And do you believe, well, I guess you do, but why do you believe that a digital solution helps to address those issues? Because do you think that it's those two? Do you think it's the stigma and the shame that are preventing people who could and should get treated from being treated, or is it a lack of available options outside of Viagra, or a bit of both?
It's both. It's actually both. It's on the one hand side, people don't like to go to doctors and say, I have a problem with this. It's somewhat awkward and shameful to walk in an office.
Yeah, I mean, like it's probably for a man one of the more awkward emotional issues to deal with. So yeah,
I can tell you when I've walked into a doctor's office with this issue, it's super hard for me to even talk about it. It's like it's so awkward.
Yeah.
But also, like from a doctor's perspective, it's extremely hard to get this kind of care to educate a patient and like change their lifestyle. And men in their 30s, 40s, 50s are amongst the ones who it's hardest to kind of like teach them and convince them to change stuff. There's an excellent video of a cardiologist of the Mayo Clinic in
the US.
And he says he mainly talks with his male patients about their erections because it's a motivator to actually change something. But that's
interesting because we'll come on to this in a second, because a lot of the lifestyle changes actually, because a lot of the causes of erectile dysfunction are related to lifestyle or can be improved through lifestyle changes, that actually improves your general health across the board.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
But actually, I think that's kind of interesting actually, that men might not want to get fit to lose weight, but they might want to, help their erectile issues.
Yeah. And I mean, if you tell someone you might have a heart attack in 10 years, it sounds like I've talked to a number. We are also working with a cardiologist in London, who says most people, says okay, I'm gonna deal with it when the time comes.
So I saw on your site. So since when I think it was in our pre-production meeting when we talked about this, but so the presence of erectile dysfunction is actually something that's included in the Q risk. So I don't know, just as some explanation, Q risk for everyone listening is the sort of one of the, I guess, NHS approved cardiovascular risk measurement assessment systems. So when you go for, you know, a cholesterol test at the GPs, if you're lucky enough to be able to get one, you know, all of those figures plus other information, height, weight, BMI, smoking status, medication, and erectile dysfunction go into the Q-risk program, which then spits out your percentage likelihood of a heart attack in the next 10 years. That's correct, right?
That's as far as I understand it too.
Yeah.
And
so what's super interesting is PocDoc, obviously our first product is providing a cardiovascular assessment. And we looked into Q-risk because you can actually license it. You can license the open source version of it. And we looked into it and we did a lot of research with clinicians, and we did actually a lot of research with users and with customers. And on Q-risk, if you, a good score, for example, one that means you're healthy is like 6%, but a bad score is 8%. Well, to a normal person, that's going to that's not really going to explain anything at all. So yeah, we didn't necessarily move that way, but have you gone down that route or at all?
It's a good question because, I mean, so in theory, right? Doctors should, if someone presents with an erectile dysfunction, doctors should check for associated health risks or diseases.
So, are the associated other risks? Is it mostly cardiovascular, or are there other issues?
One of the main things, but diabetes is associated, and also mental health issues. Clearly,
okay. Is diabetes associated because of the vascular issues that diabetes causes, or for some other reason, or you're not?
I do believe that, but to be honest, those are literally questions where I'm not an expert.
Oh, good. I'm not a doctor either, so I don't.
But like mental health issues as well, right? And that makes sense from both perspectives. If someone is super anxious in general about themselves, it might be really hard to create an erection when it matters.
Right.
And the other way around, if you can't create an erection, it's, from my own experience, it's always some sort of issue that is
look, I would imagine, I'm sure you've got the numbers, but the percentage of men with erectile dysfunction issues who also have depression or other mental health issues is probably quite high, I would suspect.
It's quite high, and I don't think there's an actual number that I rely on or that I trust right now, but even in our user cohort, we've done some small tests and or small we've sent out questionnaires, and mental health issues are amongst the issues that people have the most, like the comorbidities that
yeah. And so, in your opinion, would it be fair to say that for a large percentage of people suffering with erectile dysfunction, there is an underlying cause of it that is not necessarily purely like related to the penis, for example?
I'd say for most people,
for most of them,
and it could be like if you'd ask a cardiologist, they would say it's oftentimes a vascular issue. If you ask a therapist, a psychotherapist, they'd say in most people there's a mental health issue, or there's and for many people it might even be both. And an erection just depends on different things that have to work hand in hand, and if the erection doesn't work for whatever reason, it also has an effect on other things. Okay. So in most cases, it's just not a singular issue in the penis. It can be the predictor for something. It can have the underlying issues are mostly not just in the penis.
And presumably some of the more high risk issues that it could indicate would be potential heart attack, potential stroke, or other, or diabetes, for example.
Or heart disease, exactly. Yeah.
And
those are amongst the most the ones that are most costly on every level.
For sure.
But
they're often the ones that you can address the most easily with lifestyle change.
Absolutely, exactly.
If you commit to it.
Literally, like taking care for your penis and having better erections has a beautiful side effect, which is better cardiovascular health.
Well, on that note, let's talk about Regimen and how Regimen helps with that. So what I'd like to do, if possible, is could you just take us through the journey of a normal user from how they might come in contact with you, what they have to do, just explain it, as you would as they would experience it.
So a normal user, I guess, usually comes into contact with us either through we're still pretty active on, for example, on Reddit, or maybe an ad, or ideally one of the doctors who refer us, and maybe even explains what we're offering. So let's say a doctor tells a user, tells a person with an erectile dysfunction, here is maybe even a short-term fix, a solution, pills, Viagra, and I'd like you to try a regimen. So they would, the customer would sign up, and we are asking a ton of health-related questions in the beginning.
All via app or via Facebook?
Everything's via app. So for now, it's not awkward. Nobody has to talk to me.
Is it anonymous or non-anonymous? Because you've been referred.
It's anonymous, but we're actually working on a solution where the doctor can more directly refer patients. But that won't ever be an issue if someone. We need an email address to create the account, but you can call yourself whatever you want. And so we'll ask a couple of health-related questions, including age, overall health.
Do you ask for like any kind of like any sort of biological stuff, like cholesterol test stuff if they've done one recently, or is it all sort of non-invasive data?
It's non-invasive data, but it's the most important questions we're asking are the questions of the International Index of Erectile Function, and that will always be like if you let's say you use a weight loss app, you're tracking your weight, right?
Yeah.
And that the progress on your weight will indicate how much success you had in the program.
Correct.
We are using the International Index of Erectile Function for that. It's a 5-question questionnaire that guides people, or that asks questions from: are you able to create an erection, all through the process of intercourse, to is intercourse satisfactory for your partner? So basically, it asks all the questions.
And this is a standardized, internationally recognized standardized assessment for erectile function.
If you're looking at research in the space, 90% of studies and research papers are using the International Index of IIEF5. There are a couple of variations, but as an indicator if something is successful or not. So you'll get between 5 and 25 points, and a healthy erection is 22 to 25, and then gradually, like, you can have a mild dysfunction, mild, moderate, severe dysfunction. And
so someone does the questionnaire, then they submit it. What happens at that point?
They create an account, exactly. So, we're offering a 7-day trial, and other than that, I think so far a relatively affordable subscription.
Which is what?
Which is if you get a yearly subscription, it's around £5.50 a month, so
£5.50 a month.
Something like
that. Doesn't seem like a huge amount given the.
Yeah, no, we are literally still. No, we know. I will guide you through the numbers, but we know it works. We also know we'll still rely on feedback, and we have a pretty active customer or client community who literally send us feedback.
Well, I want to get, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that I want to dig into. So, but and one of them is your users helping other users, basically, because I feel like,
unfortunately, so we've tried. So in order to do that, we believe in medical professionals being part of it. So what we've done is basically Ask Me Anythings on Reddit, where customers were able to ask not just me, but also people from our board. We're answering any kind of question, but we've made the experience that clients referred non-scientific stuff, and like especially with such an emotional topic,
spiral out of control a bit.
Yeah, exactly. We might find a solution in the future, but so far everybody who has a question, and tons of people had questions, and can send me an email, and we're doing our best.
Okay, fine. So someone submits their questionnaire, and then you sign up and all that stuff. But in terms of the actual clinical care or the pathway, what happens next?
So people get a personal program. You can literally imagine it like a weight loss, diabetes program, back pain program. So we've developed the program with we have an advisory board of excellent researchers. We've published together with our advisory board. Wolf and myself from the patient perspective have been creating the program, and we've actually co-created it with hundreds of people of our very first cohorts.
I saw you published.
We've screwed up so much in the beginning. Like the first versions were based on incorrect assumptions. And what they're getting is, or what you as a client would be getting is, every day you're getting coaching, meaning content. Then you'll get exercises, strengthening and stretching pelvic floor and cardiovascular health, mindfulness, and an overall tracking, both activity tracking. So it's important for us that people are just active and change part of their lifestyle. We'll educate about risk factor modification, nutrition, and our goal is not to tell people do this and you'll be fine. We just our goal is to equip people with the knowledge and the tools and the resources to really take care and improve their erection on their own without going through all the research, without having a coach who shows them the exercises, but in their own home.
Do you have a coaching service, or is it purely app delivered? If someone wants to speak to somebody because I don't know, they've got issues, or one of the things that we came up with when we spoke to Kate Newhouse from Kooth, which is in child and young adult mental health, is that at some point somebody may have a problem that is not, you can't deal with that problem within the confines of your service, and that needs to be triaged upwards or outwards to be dealt with. Do you have those kind of issues?
So I have two responses. We do have a ton of questions. Not a ton of questions. We do have questions from our customers, and we're trying to solve it informally right now with our doctors.
It's good that people are engaged. I mean, it must.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and we learn from people. Like every single email, it doesn't matter if it's positive. Like we get very rare negative feedback. Might also be that people just don't want to deal with something they don't like, but I don't believe that. Like health outcome is pretty positive, but we deal with every question that people submit to us. But in the long run, we believe Regimen is part of it kind of belongs in the hands of doctors who decide what treatment journey is right for which patient. And we are working towards that. And I mean, ultimately, data. We believe in data. Data shows at the moment how effective it is, but also data will show in the future how to adjust even better to the individual needs of.
So let's talk about that. So how have you tracked success, or how successful is the program based on your data?
Yeah. So as I've mentioned, the International Index of Erectile Function is the key metric. And so in general, from all of our clients who go through the program, it works for 3 out of 4. So if you compare that with Viagra, it works for more people.
Okay. What's Viagra?
We're just looking at the first 3 months. So
yours is a 3-month program.
It's longer. It's a companion, and
okay.
Just imagine in mental health, or imagine in any generic gym membership, if you start going to the gym.
So it's sort of ongoing, but you do an assessment after 3 months, so to speak.
We are also doing every 4 weeks afterwards assessments.
Okay.
But looking at the data, we have pretty solid data for the first 3 months.
Okay.
And in this very limited time period, 3 out of 4 of our clients improve significantly.
Okay.
And I don't know how much that's going to tell anyone who's listening, but on average, more than 6 points within these 12 weeks, on a scale from 5 to 25. So we're literally transforming.
So you're nearly 30%, right? Something like that.
It's even more, depends how you calculate it, right? Because it's 21 points, and we've also tried to do percentage calculations. If you start with let's say with a 15 and you get up to a 20, that's 50% of the potential that you had up to 25.
Right. Okay. So just but either way, that is a significant improvement for 75% of people that do the program.
Absolutely significant, and we don't know any study with this health outcome. And
what as a comparison, what would Viagra be at for the same type of thing, if you know?
Super hard to compare, because in the long run, Viagra doesn't help at all. It's a symptom. It's a symptom. So with Viagra, depending on how good it works for anyone, you have like small peaks of 4 hours, and we basically are constant improvement.
And also, if you think about it, so 70, you've got a 3 in 4 chance of Regimen working for you, and over 3 months it will cost you £15.
Yeah,
doesn't seem like
we're over 3. I mean, we're selling quarterly subscriptions. I'd want to be transparent for $35 or a yearly.
I wasn't trying to pin you down on the price. I was more just trying to kind of frame it, which is that this is a health problem that affects millions of people. And you have a solution where you have data that says that it works for 3 out of 4 people, for a price of a couple of drinks, few drinks, whenever we can eventually get back into a pub, which would be nice. Okay, so and how much are you proactively trying to knock down stigma and shame versus it naturally happening by you just being available? Do you see what I mean? Is it like a mission to really knock those things over, or are you just more like, if we keep doing what we're doing, then it will happen naturally?
It is actually a mission. And I mean, you hear my German accent. We've been talking about Berlin. We are confident about the impact of Regimen for a couple of months now. Like, we have the data that we need maybe since last fall. And we've been doing a couple of tests, how impactful it is to just tell my story. In this case, was the quickest fix, the quickest way in German media. And it's insane how much feedback we've gotten, how many installs we've generated, and also how many of my friends have been approaching me, asking me about their issues and what they should do. That's kind of like, it hasn't happened ever before.
It's because it's authentic. I mean, that's one of the things that, when we first started the NHS Accelerator program, and everyone had to explain what they were doing, and you just told your story, and I thought it was extremely credible, extremely authentic, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on the show, because I think it just makes what you're doing, it sort of makes it like just so great and credible, basically.
Thanks. But I mean, shame and stigma prevent people from actually going to the doctor. So I think meaning we all together, all institutions in health insurance, have a massive opportunity if we really address stigma and fight it, and basically go the way femtech companies go, or have been going for the past 10 years. Like, in my bubble, period is nothing awkward anymore. It's just part of the way the female body functions. And that has been, I'm 33. When I was 15, that has been different for sure. Like nobody was talking about periods. Maybe it was because I was in puberty, but I think the generation of my mom literally.
Yeah, I think it's shifted for sure.
Yeah, it has shifted, and that's great. And I think that makes a massive difference also for different dimensions of health, but especially because men's health and erections and all other stuff in men's health is so closely related to still what it means to be a man. If we really have the opportunity to tear down these stigma as a barrier to getting care, we have an opportunity.
Barrier to getting care for something that could be a symptom of something very serious.
And I mean, I know that's I hate to talk about it, but like the economic impact for health insurances is massive. If we enable people to go to the doctor and say, I have an erectile dysfunction without feeling awkward, it will change.
What you mean there is that it's the indirect cost of someone says they have an erectile problem. What actually is happening is that they have a cardiovascular problem that will hit the health service in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, which can cost millions.
Exactly. Or even a mental health issue. There's so much money lost for society because people.
So do you view your role and the role of Regimen? I mean, it's the same way for PocDoc. We view ourselves very much in the preventative space, which is giving people access to data in order so that they can empower and make better life choices to improve their health. It sounds like you guys feel the same way, which is you're actually on the preventative end of the curve.
Yeah, I think we're in a weird space between preventative and actual. I don't know, it's primary care or
treatment,
just treatment, right?
Yeah,
it is an effective treatment. It is an effective treatment, but our mission goes beyond that. Our mission is to really enable people to take care of their very personal stuff, and we're not really interested in like general health problems. Like we're never going to build a back pain app, but we're going to create solutions for problems that are super personal and intimate and feel awkward. And I mean, the American.
Look, I think let's break down the stigma. I mean, the only way to do that, well, not the only way, but one of the main ways is just to talk about these things.
Absolutely.
And approach it like it's a problem like any other problem, and people are solving the problem and they solve it in a particular way. And yeah, no, I'm with you. So what I think I'd really like to understand now is because I know that you said you've got doctors on your advisory board and you work with some doctors. What has the general reaction of the medical community been to this? Because you're available direct to the consumer. So I can go to the App Store, I can download Regimen, I can sign up. So I can do that directly. I don't need to go to a doctor for that. Or I can, it sounds like you are either already or in the process of trying to become part of the referral from a doctor. So do they have an issue with you doing both? Or what's the general reaction about what you're doing?
So the general reaction is it has to be as easy as possible for doctors. Okay. We're basically building the tools right now to make it as easy as possible. And
are they going to get a different version, or is that more just a back-end thing for the
back-end thing, and possibly in the future a different version where we would be allowed to send data back to doctors, but that's all up in the air, and we're going to treat it just like building the app. We'll do it together with doctors, not on our own.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. In general, I don't think anyone I've talked to, any doctor, thinks it's a bad idea to also go directly to the consumer. But we want to become part of healthcare systems, meaning we want to integrate with whatever other services are there. We don't want to be an isolated solution, and that means we have to be part of what doctors have in their can offer to patients. They can offer, and so far they have one solution, and it's also kind of an awkward situation for a doctor who prescribes Viagra, and then he doesn't have anything else anymore. And yeah, that's.
Have you found that doctors are quite excited about having another tool in the toolbox, as opposed to?
So far, yes, and mainly urologists I've been talking to who have been referring it to a couple of their patients, even told us that patients, we had the situations where doctor told us that patients have sent them emails and reporting back that the erection improves.
Cool.
And I've heard a couple of times that happens quite rarely for doctors, that patients reach out with a thank you.
Well,
thank
that's
you.
awesome. That's great feedback.
It's actually excellent feedback. I think our challenge will really be create a solution that is as easy as possible for doctors, especially because they don't have time to really refer something and coach people. And secondly, our ultimate goal is to make it accessible and available for every person with erectile functions, which means health insurances will have a role at some point in time.
Right. So on that topic, presumably when you say health insurances, you mean, outside the UK, because the UK has a different system, or do you mean the private ones in the UK as well?
No. In the UK, we're evaluating what will be the role of the NHS and of commissioners. And I mean, we're really thinking this as a global solution, and healthcare systems are different everywhere in the world.
It's definitely true.
And also digital health has a different, it is different.
Not everyone feels the same way about digital solutions, is what you're getting at. Is that right?
Yeah.
So on that note, what do you, I know there's been a lot of stick or a lot of kind of media attention about the vaccine and the different approaches to it between the UK and Europe. So what are the main differences as you see them? You can keep it within digital health between Germany and the UK, because you work in both markets.
Yeah, in the UK, it seems like people get vaccinated. I haven't seen that happen in Germany so far.
It's going to happen. It's going to come.
It's going to happen. I think honestly, everybody has the same issues and same problems. It looks like the UK is actually faster. And I mean, I have a US passport. My partner is American, even if though she lives in London. But looks like in California has a digital solution where people actually get vaccinated in drive-through centers. And I mean, it doesn't look. I feel like we had a year to prepare for vaccination, also to build digital tools, and it looks like nothing really happened. Everybody has COVID apps. It could have been a pretty cool feature to integrate like a vaccination timeline, or like booking appointments in a feature into these apps. But I
look, I don't know. I'm not involved in anything to do with the vaccination program, but I mean, what the NHS has been able to do is, because the NHS and primary care have all of the information of all of the patients in the UK, I think it's probably been easier for them to organize these things. Whereas if, in a federalized system where there's, people are cared for by different private people and different insurances and all that type of stuff, I can imagine that is a lot more complicated.
Don't get me started on that. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that the federal system is not helping right now.
And what about more like generally regards digital health? So your solution or any other solution, what are the differences in attitude to this stuff in Germany compared to the UK?
Well, I know people in the UK like to talk badly about the NHS sometimes, is at least what I hear, especially medical professionals. But what we think we see is there is just 10 years more experience in the UK. So
you think it's 10 years in terms of experience with digital?
5 to 10 years.
Cool.
Just the fact that there are accelerator programs that are supported by the NHS,
right?
That apps or digital solutions are prescribed all around the country.
Yeah, through the NHS apps library for one.
Exactly, and commissioners have an interest in solutions that actually can save money, because digital solutions can save money, is a massive difference. We in Germany, there has been new initiatives and new laws. One is called DiGA. I don't even know how to translate it. Digital health applications or something.
Okay.
I don't think anyone has really figured out how to integrate them with doctors' offices, and it's amazing that they've started. It's it's very German to be 5 years lagging behind.
Very thorough though. Very thorough.
Very thorough, exactly. Like everything has to be thought through, and then stuff starts. But on the other hand, especially in digital, it's important to just try and error. Yeah. And I think that the UK is ahead. And if you look at the US, we have clients in the US. It's a whole different system.
Yeah.
Super fragmented. I don't think the 3 minutes of time that we have are enough to.
I want to do it. I'd love to do get a couple of people on who are experts in the US healthcare space, because sometimes I feel like they move unbelievably quickly, and sometimes I feel like that they move unbelievably slowly, and I can't quite work out why there is this like huge discrepancy.
Yeah, I think there are tons of reasons for it, starting with American individualism and Ivy League universities, and then I mean, I've cracked my ankle in the US. It was a horrific experience to just go from one practice to the other, always swiping my credit card. Before I was seeing a doctor, and in general, I think overall, even in the pandemic, we all have to be grateful for the work that the healthcare staff especially is doing. And I mean, every time I'm in London, I see "Thank you NHS" posters, which is important, I guess, for the awareness. But the next challenge is coming right now in the pandemic, and every country is solving it differently. And I hope digital solutions will be part of what was enabled and catalyzed by the pandemic, and what's staying.
Yeah, no, for sure. So we got to wrap up now. So thank you everybody for listening. And before we go, so if you want to join Regimen, you go to www.joinregimen.com.
Correct. And if there are doctors who want to pilot with us, max@joinregimen.com.
And you can download the app from either app store. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Great. Good. Well, look, Max, it's been awesome to talk about Regimen and how you're helping millions of men all over the world with erectile dysfunction. And I just wish you the best of luck. And thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you.